So, hello everybody, and welcome back to another CX Today video. I'm your host Floyd, and I'm excited to be talking all things CDP and Content Guru today. So, to do just that, I would like to welcome in Martin Taylor today from Content Guru. So, how are you doing today, Martin?
Yeah, great. So good to be here.
Yeah, brilliant. Great to have you on the platform, and looking forward to getting into the nitty gritty of it. So, a bit of a warm up question more than anything, but if you could just give us a bit of an introduction to yourself and to Content Guru.
Yeah, sure. I'm Martin Taylor. I'm the co-founder and deputy CEO of Content Guru and of Redwood Technologies Group, which is the kind of owner of Content Guru. So I've been doing this worryingly now for just over 30 years, which is a sobering thought. So Content Guru is all about being the CX as a service provider. So obviously we've been contact center as a service for a number of years now. We've got a Magic Quadrant provider of contact center as a service, top rated by customers on Gartner and G2, Gartner Voice of the Customer, etc. We are, I think, the only cloud that's running national emergency services from our cloud. So we trade on that high resilience and the high trust aspect. So complex services, just the sort of thing that need a customer data platform, that's absolutely our sweet spot.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's a great place to start is if you can cover off what a customer data platform is for any of those that might not be too familiar with it, and why it's more suited to modern CX challenges than maybe some of the traditional CRMs that everyone knows and loves.
Yeah, of course. So customer data platform is a relatively recent term. I suppose 20 years ago, we'd just been talking about a database, hadn't we? And then it was CRM for a long time, customer relationship management. CRMs always had a goal to kind of be the one ring to rule them all. So bring all the data into the CRM and we'll take it from there and everything will be dandy. CDP takes a slightly more pragmatic approach, recognizes that in the customer environment, there are multiple systems of record, often multiple CRMs. So it's about creating this single, unified, persistent customer database. So it's sitting atop various sources of information, which could be systems of record, they could be CRM systems, can be other systems that are perhaps feeding in information, could be Internet of Things, for example, that in real time are feeding this lake. And often it's about keeping the data where it is. So again, the difference from the CRM approach, so nothing against CRMs, so we integrate with them all, but the different approach of the CDP is that the data can stay where it is because those people who work on those systems of record, that's their day job. So taking contacts and dealing with the public isn't necessarily their day job. So a lot of these information systems exist in the back office. And one of our big customers, a large multinational insurer, they did a survey recently. They found that their average contact center agent was dealing with 13.8 systems of record. So that's a lot of systems of record. And so a lot of the time that's spent in your training to work in one of these environments is where to find stuff, which tabs to click on to go and get information, or where to save information and how to save that information. Customer data platform is about making it really easy. So it's about presenting that single pane of glass, as it's called, on the screen there, alongside your other contact real estate. And then underneath, it's updating and pulling from the systems of record so that you can do your job without needing to know exactly where all these systems are or kind of how to update them. Sometimes it's not even appropriate for someone working in the front office to be working actually physically in those systems. That might be a security risk, for example. Even going way back to kind of the start of our CDP journey, one of the first of these that we did was in the 2021 UK Census for the Office of National Statistics. As you can imagine, in compiling the household data of every UK household, they've got a lot of different systems of record. But in order to provide that over-the-top service, in order to provide a help desk, someone wants to change the number of people staying at the address from what they've put in the record, for example, then it would be fiendishly complicated and a security nightmare to suddenly open up all those records. So the CDP, our own CKS platform on Storm, was used to orchestrate those different systems of record, provide that single pane of glass, and then update the data in the back end kind of seamlessly out of sight. And then that meant, as a worker in that help desk contact center environment, you could get straight on with helping the citizen rather than trying to turf through lots and lots of different, sometimes quite archaic systems of record. So I hope that gives a bit of an overview of kind of what the CDP is and why it's different to a CRM.
Yeah, thank you for covering that off. And I think orchestration is a really important point to kind of like, hammer home, because it's something that, everyone always talks about orchestration. I read tons of press releases each day and it's orchestration, this orchestration and that. But I think the best use case is in the public sector, something like the ONS or others. So I think it's really important to kind of like have that use case and obviously have those case studies when we're talking about how CDP can, go that one step further than CRMs, can't it?
Yeah, very much so. So wherever you look, particularly in the public sector, systems of record kind of almost never die. They're just in there. If you look at the National Health Service, another UK example, you've got this move to create a federated data platform, which is a kind of interesting government development where everyone's meant to send all their data to this federated data platform. But actually, in practice, a lot of actual users in the health service don't trust that. They don't think that putting their data in this big platform is what they want to do. For one thing, it's a tremendous attack surface that's created there with all the data that any malware kind of person could ever wish for. They would rather, and they kind of have a proprietorial approach, I think, to the data. They see it as their data. It's really the patient's data. But they want to keep it under their control. So they would far rather that a CDP, in many cases anyway, they would far rather the CDP is able to access that data at the point of need, but it stays where it is in their own information systems that people in the back office in their various forms are working off night and day. So the CDP information is always going to be up to date. It's not a kind of nightly upload or something. And it prevents the need to physically shift that data. So I think wherever there are these multiple legacy systems of record, such as in government, the CDP is an ideal approach to working with that data and really bringing it to life.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for covering that off. And maybe a bit more of a trickier question this time. I wouldn't be a journalist if I didn't have that cynical hat on. But it'd be great if you could kind of cover off some of the challenges that enterprises face when integrating CDPs with their legacy CX stacks, and maybe how Content Guru can aid people on that journey.
Yeah, I mean, legacy systems covers a multitude of sins. So some of them are modern, they have APIs, they're not too hard to work with. Others are just ancient, they're not designed for what was then called electronic data interchange. So there is no API. Sometimes you have to resort to things like keystroke emulation or terminal emulation. And hence there's a whole kind of subcategory of software vendor whose job it is to provide integration layers into some of these kind of hard to access older systems. So in some cases, you can go to one of these providers of connectors, and they can give you a sort of modern-looking connector to your side, and then they'll deal with all the kind of steam-powered valve stuff downstream. So very often, again, in the CDP world, it's about having a mix of different interfaces to the source data. So sometimes it could be a modern API, could be REST, could be SOAP, or could be something a lot more kind of archaic.
Yeah, of course. So, we can never go more than 10 minutes in one of these videos without talking about AI. So it'd be great if we could cover off like what role does Omni-Data play in powering next-gen AI-driven experiences for your customers?
Yes, of course. Well, if you're going to run AI, you've got to have your data straight. So we always look at the Mayo Clinic a few years ago devised a nice simple model. It's data, discovery, validation, deployment. And I think that's a great model. But obviously between validation and deployment, there are things like regulatory matters to concern yourself with. But essentially, it's always going to start with the data. And customers will come to us and they're thinking about the deployment already. We have to kind of walk them back a few steps. Is your data in a fit state? Are you recording the same sorts of events consistently? Do you have overlapping data or similar things presented in different ways? So part of the role of Omni-Data and the customer data platform is to kind of take a lawn roller over all of that and make it nice and tidy so that it is consistent and accurate, and then it can be used to build your AI models. So it's got a central role. And I think as well as Omni-Data, it's given further boosts to Omni-Channel. So Omni-Channel, if you'll recall, was kind of pre-COVID, but very much the direction of travel for everything. And then a lot of the focus of organizations operating CX was about hybrid work environments, and necessarily so. We've got to send all of our people home to work. Nothing else matters. But then, having got through that period, it's then turned back to Omni-Channel, because Omni-Channel creates Omni-Data. The average customer's using over 2 channels per interaction now. I mean, you might call, you're speaking what it is that you want, what the call is about. You then receive a text. There's a link on that text. You click on the link. A form opens on your mobile screen. You're filling in a few details that get delivered with the call. So already you're into kind of 3 different pieces of channel there. And it's about meeting the customer where they are. And very often the same person will want to use different forms of communication to interact with an organization in different situations and at different times and for different purposes. But it's still the same person. So a person, not an event. So the CDP is about gathering together all of those different touch points and then melding that into an accurate view of what that person's activities have been. And perhaps you can then start to think about getting ahead and anticipating their needs. So, again, without getting that data straight, you just can't make a start on that process.
Yeah, definitely. And it does really translate to the real world as well, because without people even realizing, if I'm commuting to work on the train and I know I need to try and upgrade my Wi-Fi, or I need to contact my bank about a standing order or whatnot, if I'm at work in that 9 to 5 window, chances are when I get back to the high street, all these places are going to be shut. So if I can do it on my mobile device whilst commuting or doing another task, the real world use cases, they speak for themselves, don't they?
Yeah, and it's not even just as simple as age demographics or anything. It's situations. You're on the train, you don't want to be talking, you want to be doing something that's silent. Maybe there's limited data, certainly there is on any trains I seem to go on. So you might actually be busted down to even something like text messaging. Or suddenly it opens up and it gets quiet, and now you can snatch a voice conversation, and you might want to do that from within an app environment, for example. But also in that Omni-Data, not all of it's even being generated by human interactions anymore. So the Omni-Data now is also about devices that represent humans. So if we think of IoT devices, years now we've had millions of smart meters connected into our platforms for our distribution network operator energy customers. So whereas before the lights go out, I better call, find out what's going on. Now I might be at work and I get a text message telling me that the power's out at home because my smart meter at its last gasp has sent that information to the platform. It then associates it with the address, and here's my information for contact. It's forestalled the need for that contact, and it's provided that kind of proactive notification. If you then think about more complex use cases, such as maybe passive monitoring devices in homes or wellness devices, you could be actually looking at a situation where maybe you've got a CO2 device, seeing if there's anyone in the room breathing, there's heat, there's light, there's movement. We could actually be gaining a good picture of what's happening perhaps in an elderly person's home, and that's feeding into the customer data platform, which can then become a system of action. It sees that this reading is not consistent with what we'd expect from this particular individual and triggers an action. And obviously you've got your data platform connected with your contact platform. It can trigger either an automated communication, or maybe someone in an alarm receiving center, or even a social worker that's in the vicinity to kind of divert and go and look into things. So I think some of these uses of these upcoming kind of digital customers representing real people and customers out there could be transformative in the whole way people live. So that's a massive expansion of the CX remit, really, from like the ox's hide. But if we think about CX, this is where we've developed the techniques, the processes, and the technologies that are super efficient, AI-enabled, already kind of working across all these digital channels at scale. And now we can apply these techniques and processes to other walks of life. It's the reason why, if you look at someone like Professor Eric Brynjolfsson, author of The Second Machine Age of MIT and now Stanford, nearly all of his field research has actually been in contact centers, because that's the place where you've got the data, the processes, the optimized processes already operational, and you've got the data to then build these models and actually put it to work. Whereas in other fields of human endeavor, it's more a debate about what could AI do. We can actually show what it's doing and now start to roll out the pitch to expansion of that field.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not all about the customer as well. Like Omni-Data can help empower agents in the contact center too. It's often a conversation that gets put to the side. Everyone's always talking about what it means for customers, but agents have a hard time of it. But Omni-Data can really empower agents, can't it?
Totally. I mean, if you look at workplace surveys through the ages, the number one source of job dissatisfaction is always workload. If you thought you were busy answering the phone and doing some emails, and then suddenly we're saying, look, you're all right doing WhatsApp as well, and the X channel, you can manage that as well. And now we're going to be feeding you these digital customers. If you don't manage that workload, it's just going to go through the roof. Everyone will be quitting. So it's about smoothing out the workload. We think of the agent or contact center worker as the internal customer. And we've seen consistently where we've got customer data platforms and AI being used now, that far from we're automating your job, these real world examples are resulting in sharply increased job satisfaction. So if you look at somewhere like the DVLA, we've been engaged there for the last 2 or 3 years now on quite a big transformation program, which has included introduction of our customer data platform and AI, that it now outperforms the Directorate, which is the Department for Transport, and the entire civil service as a place to work. Whereas I'm old enough to remember the sitcom Yes, Prime Minister, and there was a joke from one of the civil servants, Bernard Woolley, I think the private secretary, that this is going to go so badly wrong that I'm going to be sent to the DVLA in Swansea. Got a career oblivion, potentially. And now it's seen as a great place to work because the technology has made it so. Obviously, the things you're doing are the same. It's driving licenses, it's number plates, medical checks, and so on. Just the workload has changed. And if you think as well about what does training involve, the 3 months training that's still the average for a contact center worker, most of that is navigating your way around these 13.8 systems. Whereas if it's, this is it, it's all in one place, it's on the screen in front of you next to that dial pad there. Okay, that's pretty easy. I don't need to know where to look for things. And actually, furthermore, during the conversation with customer data platforms, it's looking into these systems of record below. It's surfacing up even what I need to be talking about. How good is that? And then it's also making notes of everything that's going on, and it's producing a summary for me. So I'm not even having to do all of that bothersome typing up. And one of the customers we have, which is part of the Department of Work and Pensions, they have implemented a very advanced method of doing these summarizations, which actually involves creating a CV at the end of the conversation for a job seeker that's on UK Universal Credit. And job satisfaction has absolutely rocketed there. We've got people who are dyslexic, who are able to function very capably there. People even who've suffered brain injuries. They find that I don't need to do all that typing anymore or worrying about what to do next. It's being taken care of. I just need to relax and concentrate on having this great conversation. So it's a good experience for the user and a great experience for the worker. In fact, we made a video down in Cardiff, where one of the centres where they operate this service. And one of the people there said, before it came in, I disliked it and hated it. Now I love it. Please don't take it away. So it's one of these things. Once it's there, you quickly wonder how you ever managed without it.
Yeah.
All of that is enabled by these customer data platforms. No data, no AI.
Yeah, definitely. And I think seeing is believing, and you brought up a really great example there. If I was told that I need to use AI in my day-to-day role, the answer would probably be a pretty blunt no to start with. But if I spoke to my colleague who was using it and they're saying, oh, actually, I've been able to do this, it's freed me up to do that. Seeing really is believing. So, and as I've mentioned a couple of times, the use cases just build and build and build for CDP, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. And things like passive scribes for NHS. So it's note taking, it's producing. It could be a mental health summary, or it could be a physical health summary. It could be an urgent care summary, a primary care summary. So in the US, a stat I've heard recently at a conference over there, the average clinician spends 40% of their time typing up what they've been talking about and 60% of their time in the electronic health record. So that's not what they went to medical school for. It's about talking to people, treating people. So if customer data platforms and AI can be looking after all of the write-up part of it and preparing the information to go into that health record system, and the clinicians still got final control over it, and they can edit it just like they do now in the health record system, and then save it, because after all it's going against their name. Then universally people wanting to do that. And these are expensive resources as well. We talk often about contact centers and the cost of contact center staff. Set that against a 3-figure per hour pound worker. So if you can make them 20, 30% more efficient, that's a pretty exciting gain.
Yeah, definitely. So just a final question to wrap up our conversation today is say there's contact center out there that's using traditional CRM, but that they're convinced about customer data platforms, being the next big thing. What are the steps that they should take, to make that transition? Because I think a lot of the time, contact center leaders, you get caught up in your day to day, and before you know it, you're 6 months down the line.
Yes, exactly. I think we always encourage people to have a business outcome objective. So what is it I want to achieve? I want to process more transactions, or I want to increase my customer service CSAT, for example. And then look at, okay, what have I got? What are my information systems? What are the channels I'm using? So we're not suggesting you throw anything out, but now consider what could overlay all of that to bring together the information I need, and what information do I need? How would it be presented? What's the kind of frequency of updates? Does it need to write back into the source systems of record? And then your design will kind of naturally emerge from that process. We found actually at the DVLA, and it wasn't even part of what we set out to do, that after a year or so with the customer data platform, they were doing so much more in that platform that they actually decommissioned their CRM, and that saved them millions of pounds a year. It certainly wasn't something we set out to do, but it was a natural evolution of the direction of travel, because their objective was to serve the customers better and to have more efficient work processes. That's why they got the CRM in the first place, as part of an earlier digitalization drive. But now the kind of evolution had taken them to a point where they thought, well, actually, we don't need that anymore. Everything we need is gathered together here. And then we've got our source systems of record, which, funnily enough, predated the CRM era. And now those are enabled to work for many more years into the future, with this obviously better employee experience at the same time into the bargain.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that. And I think that's a great place for us to wrap up today. So I'd just like to thank all of the listeners for tuning in to another episode on the CX Today channel. Love to thank you for your time today, Martin, as well. It's a great conversation. And just a heads up for everybody watching that we will have a series of articles coming out on the website. So make sure you subscribe to our newsletter, and you'll be able to catch up with everything that's going on at Content Guru. So yeah, just like to thank you for your time again, Martin.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure, and look forward to speaking again sometime.